book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more.
800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Welcome to my show, Vet for Vets, starring me, which is not really a TV show. But anyway, my name is Angelo Rocha. You're listening to Vet for Vets, a show where I take local Johnson County veterans, or try to. We had one on tonight, but something came up, and basically I'm kind of pretty much doing this on my own today, which is fine. I've done it before, and I can do it again. And my show, I take local Johnson County veterans, and I kind of interview them, and I talk with them, I chit chat with them, I bullshit with them, and we just have little conversations about their life before, during, and after the military service. We hear happy stories, we hear sad stories, we hear emotional stories, we hear stories of reunions, we hear stories of returning home and with their family. And today I decided to kind of talk a little bit about veteran health, a little bit about myself, maybe even have some call-ins or people with questions if you have any. Once again, my name is Angelo Rocha. You're listening to Vet for Vets. The first things first, I want to always mention to you, because it's usually one of the first things I do on my show, is I talk about veteran health and how you can get help. So if you're a veteran and you're going through a time of crisis, you know, that involves some kind of addiction, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and you need somebody to talk to, you are always more than welcome to reach out to me by messaging me or personally calling me. If you know me, call me. Tell me what's going on, and I'll try to help you go to the right people. And another way you can do this is by calling a number called 988. You can go on that phone right here. You can see right here is my phone. You type in 988, and it's going to take you to one of those, press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish, blah, blah, blah. You press 1, and it's going to take you to the first responders and military. As soon as you click the second one, it's going to take you right to an actual person like myself that's going to answer, and they're going to talk to you, and they're going to find out what's wrong with you, what's going on in your head, so that way you don't have to end yourself. Okay. And hopefully that person is qualified enough and experienced enough to get you to the right place, somewhere where later on down the road, 5, 10, even a year down the road, you are glad you talked to that person because you called that number, or even you're glad you talked to me or somebody like me, a veteran who's been through some stuff. I am very nonchalant. I like to stay under the radar. I don't like to put myself out there. I have a lot of great things happening to me in my life, but I don't tell many people about it because there's no sense in me doing it because I'm not one of those people. Okay. And and if I had something going on, I would want to reach out to you. And then you try to get me to the right people. But there's not a lot of people like me that are fortunate enough to be in the right set of, right minded, where everything is fine in their life. Even I have issues going on in my life, and I do it in my way. But just me being so selfish and wanting to end myself, knowing down the road that my daughters, that my family, that my wife, that just my future families that are born, they're all going to not know me because I was selfish enough to end my life. So today we're going to do a little bit of a conversation, not by myself, but kind of like to myself. Hopefully I will give you some information that hopefully you take in, you absorb, and you contact somebody that is a veteran. Okay. So my first article that I'm going to be talking to you about is challenges that veterans face when leaving the military. This pretty much deals with every veteran. There are two types of veterans. There's regular veteran, and then there's combat veteran. Veterans pretty much say, for example, it's 1999, right? The war hasn't started yet. You're just you did your 4 years in the military, 6 years, 10 years. You've never actually been to war. You've been in a lot of training exercises. You've even gone overseas, say to South Korea, or you've gone to Australia, or you've gone to Germany, but you're not actually a combat veteran. That does not diminish the fact that you're a veteran. That means you did something. You did something that not many people have done, which is volunteer to join the military force with the possibility of you going and getting sent overseas. Okay. That on its own, it's a huge accomplishment, and you need to understand that. I'm a combat veteran, which means I was given orders and I was sent to a military base overseas. I was sent to a combat zone. I got involved with combat, actually getting shot at, nearly blown up. I've done things that I don't like to talk to people about. I've seen things that I don't want any of my kids to ever see. Maybe in movies, The Walking Dead is pretty much the closest thing I can describe to what I saw over there. But there's a lot of people that are the opposite of me that remember all those things they've seen and done every single day of their life, to the point to where they can't stand it anymore. They put a gun in their mouth, they swallow a bottle of pills, they sit in their garage with the exhaust system on, whatever it is that they do. And next thing you know, you have a whole litany of family members that are just wondering why, when there's people like me you can talk to. So anyway, right now we're going to talk to you about some of the things that happens to you when you leave the military that you should, and this is kind of like what you can do to help yourself. Okay. I know a lot of people are not fans of the Veterans Administration, but they do, for the most part, try to help anybody they can. Yes, there's a lot of people out there, including close friends of mine, that the VA is absolutely just piping them. They're not giving them exactly what they want. When they've been to combat, they've been involved in situations where there's a sexual harassment involved, or even more than sexual harassment, and the VA is not doing anything about it because technically, by the rule book, it's not considered a certain type of situation, which is BS. But anyway, one of the things that the veteran will deal with is unemployment as soon as you leave the military. I went through it. Luckily I was able to get hired by a company for the railroad, and they were able to give me a job, and I learned quite a bit being in this mechanical field in the railroad. This is way past 10 years ago. But anyway, many veterans struggle to find work after they return home. People often join the military right after high school. That's why they may not have the education that is necessary for many jobs. Fortunately, the VA can help people who are struggling to find employment. You just have to go to va.gov. A relationship with themselves. Veterans do a noble thing by serving their country. However, many of them struggle with a sense of purpose and identity. They may have self esteem issues. I have that sometimes because they no longer have the noted title that they used to have in the military. A good example would be if you're in the military and you're a command sergeant major, you're an E7, E8, E9, you're a high-ranking individual, right? You're used to leading soldiers into the combat zone. You tell them go, go, go. You know, you go after the enemy, you pound them and pound them and pound them. You call the jets in, they drop bombs, you're in it. Boom, the enemy's dead. That's what you're used to doing. Just training, training, training all the time. Then all of a sudden, either get out because you're medically retired or you get out because it's just time. The military says, hey, you're done with your time. And then you leave the military and you feel underappreciated. You feel like you don't no longer have a place. You're not a combat soldier anymore. You're not there as a command sergeant major. You're not in charge of anybody. You might be working at the Walmart as a stock manager. You could be working at the railroad, managing some employees. You're just not going to be in that same position anymore. Well, if that is, unless there was some kind of World War III and they're looking for people with experience, but the likelihood of that is like 0 to none. Here's another issue that's going on right now. The VA states that there's 30% of the homeless people out there in the world, in America, 30% of them are homeless veterans. Homeless veterans, 30% make up all the homelessness. I think it's actually more than that. The reason that's so many veterans are at risk for homelessness is that because many of them suffer from drug addiction and mental illness, severe mental illness. Other veterans are unable to make enough money to pay for their housing because the medical that they receive from the VA for their time of service just isn't enough. Another one is physical handicaps. Many veterans sustain injuries while they're in combat or in service, amputations, scars, disfigurements. And some of them are injuries that people can, and they may get while they're in combat, or they can get it while they're just in the service, because people do get hurt while you're in the military. One day you can be out playing football with your friends and you break your leg, and it's to the point where you have to get your leg amputated, and stuff like that does happen in the military. Accidents happen all the time. You can get into a car accident, hit by a drunk driver, and all of a sudden you're in a position that you don't want to be in, where you have no legs, or you have no limbs, or you have deformities. And a lot of those people end up getting self-esteem issues. And what do? And either a lot of them become motivational speakers, or they end up as a statistic, which is the last thing we want. Okay. Another one is poor mental health. This one I kind of suffer through it, because depression is something I know I have. I just never been diagnosed, because there are times where I just don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to say anything to anybody. I just kind of nod my head. It's because I'm depressed. Not because anybody made me depressed. It's just the way it is. Of course, I get over it. Depression and suicide rates are higher among people who have served in the military than any other job, even higher than police officers and first responders. I know, which is a statistic that's incredible, considering police officers are some of the bravest people I know. The reason people do not get help that they need is that there is a social stigma attached to it. The cost can also be a barrier that stops people from getting mental health treatment. Because you think about it, you're barely able to make enough money to pay for your housing, your food, your gas, well, especially in today's climate where the economy is just at the all-time worst. But somehow the media makes it seem like it's actually okay when it's not. Anyway, if you're in need of services and you're a veteran, you can contact the Veterans Association or the Veterans Administration, and they will try to help you as best as they can. Yes, I get it. They're the 90-10 rule, which is every job, every occupation, every career has the 90-10 rule, which means 90% of the people have good intentions and good morals, good ethics, and they mean to do well. And then you have the 10% that are just absolutely against you every step of the way. But there are certain jobs that are not 90-10, i.e. DMV, government jobs. A lot of government jobs, it's the opposite. It's like 10-90, where 10% of them have good intentions and the 90 do not. But anyway, I just figured I would make that as a joke, even though I shouldn't be joking about that. There are nearly 20 million veterans in the U.S. just based on last year's numbers. Last year. Oh, I got my friend Bobby Riley says, I'm in need of your services, you big stud. Oh, and I will service you there, Bobby. What? But you got your wife there, man. Come on. Greg Cooper, what's up? Hi, Greg. Nice to see you. Nice to have you guys on here. I did have a guest coming in today, but they had to back out. There was supposed to be two brothers, but they got caught up in another state and they couldn't make it. But anyhow, I was getting back to there are nearly 20 million veterans in the U.S. last year alone. There's a company or an organization called the DAV. Some people are fans of them, some people are not, because some people think of it a certain way. I have no qualms because I've never had any problems with them. Everybody that I know is involved with the DAV is actually okay. But anyway, the DAV has helped more than 1 million of our heroes address their challenges in positive, life-changing ways. Every veteran is affected by their service, regardless or how minimal you think it is. Veterans have been affected by their service. They may face health problems, employment issues, and struggles around accessing their benefits. Just like some people that I know that might have asked me a question here, they're having troubles accessing their benefits that they're entitled to because of their time in the service. This happens immediately after service, but it's also in the years to come. These are some of the most common issues that veterans like myself are affected. One of the things is you have a hard time navigating the complex world of your benefits. Benefits and policies for veterans continue to change and become more complex from year to year. The system can be hard to navigate. It takes knowledge, persistence to understand what's available, what's required to file the right claims, how to manage appeals, and most importantly, is how to see your process actually go through. Here, my friend James Stewart just sent me a message here. This is the Tarrant County MHMR crisis line, 1-800-866-2465. Thank you, James. Bobby Riley said DAV is good shit. Also, the Texas Coalition at Burleson Courthouse. I was about to say whorehouse. Courthouse is amazing. Ben will have your back. I agree. Ben will have your back. I think Ben was actually here a couple months ago. To assist, the DAV has professional benefits advocates available throughout the U.S. and in Puerto Rico, in case you're in Puerto Rico. I don't know how many people from Puerto Rico actually listen to me. I think barely a handful of people listening to me here in Burleson. They're at VA hospitals, at DAV locations, also on installations, and they're ready to counsel service members for claims when they separate, or even years later when you just finally decide to step it up and realize you're actually entitled to some money from the military. Because there are a lot of people in the military who are so proud and so full of pride of themselves that they feel like they're fine, they're okay, until 10 years down the line when they have this back injury or knee injury or shoulder problems, and then they realize it actually stems from the military and they never filed a claim. But that's what people like the Veterans Administration associations and also the DAV, okay, they can help you. Last year, the benefits from the DAV advocates filed nearly 180,000 claims and helped our nation's heroes and their families obtain more than $26.4 billion in benefits. You hear that? $26.4 billion in benefits. Another issue is the changing needs of veterans. The ever-changing face of the military and its service itself means that our veterans require individualized support for wounds both visible and invisible. Don't forget, just because you're able to walk, talk, do everything you can doesn't mean you're not messed up here in the head, okay? Seriously. A lot of people think, oh my God, he's walking fine. I walk fine sometimes, but I've had 3 back surgeries on my low back, L5. That's visible injuries. You can see scars on my back. You can see my broken ribs. You can actually feel things physically. People on here that are commenting have the same type of injuries as I do. But then there are some who've been in situations, yes, they've recovered. Yes, they've gone to counseling about it, but it's an invisible issue in the head because things trigger them. It makes them think back to what happened to them. Okay. I get emotional thinking about that. Okay. Because people start thinking about their life in the military, when they served, how they served, what they could have done better. And it kills them inside little by little. It's kind of like socialism. It's a cancer. It slowly eats you up inside. Socialism, communism, all the different isms from the left that just kills you. It just eats you up inside. Then eventually you got nothing. Post traumatic stress disorder, post traumatic brain injuries, hearing loss, illnesses caused by toxic exposure, and other injuries can show up years later and affects you every stage of your life. Veterans may lose jobs and face crises. New veteran populations, women, minorities, the LGBTQ plus, and others may face inequities over time. As needs change and as the veterans population changes, veteran programs are out there to help you throughout your lifetime, not just now, not 5 years down the road. You've heard of the term better late than never. If you feel like you're entitled to some benefits from the military, please reach out to these people at the DAV and the VA and other programs. Another issue that veterans face is making the move to civilian life. Transitioning back to civilian life can be especially tough time for veterans. Finding that mission again, creating a purposeful life through employment, service, or education. That's why a lot of veterans join to be a police officer. Last night, me and Summer Ingersoll saw the movie The Sound of Freedom. I loved that movie so much. It made me so angry at the sex traffickers that it made me motivate. It motivated me to just want to do what they did and go after these people. That's how well that movie is done. And that's what a lot of people do in the military. When they leave their military service, they've made such an impact with the Iraqis, with the Afghanis, with the South Koreans, with the Japanese, with other foreign countries, that they feel like they have a higher purpose. So when they get out of the military, they become, police officers, security guards. They do private investigating. They do other things like prison stuff. They talk and become motivational speakers. They try to do something higher, and it's a lot. And those are the lucky ones. Then you have ones that struggle in transitioning. It can be a serious problem, because what happens is you start getting depressed. Sometimes some of them get homelessness. Then you have an increased risk of crises, especially those that are disabled. Disabled veterans face the worst disasters and emergencies at any point, more than any other veteran. The ones who are amputees, people who have injuries that are makes them self-conscious. People, I mean, you think about it. You've gone your whole life with all your 10 fingers and all your 10 toes. You go and fight for your country. You come back and you don't have all your 10 fingers or your 10 toes. Sometimes you even have more things missing. Part of your skull, missing an eyeball, totally blind. Body parts that you love because it functions properly, they're no longer there. It creates a little invisible issue here in the head that a lot of people can't see. This is an important time for the vital services provided by military programs. There are a lot of free professional assistant programs out there for veterans and their families, because families can get health care, disability, education, and financial benefits that they rightly deserved. The military connects you to opportunities for meaningful employment, so that way you don't feel like your job is something that you're just kind of wasting your experience on. Okay. The military programs out there that can help you with emergency grants, that can connect you to veterans that are local, that can help you. You create a brotherhood with local veterans that are out here. Programs like this, Vet for Vets, are able to connect with people who've been through the same things you have. And if those are of you out there, if you want to know what invisible injuries, it's called TBI. James Stewart also said this is there's a phone number. This is to the Pecan Valley MHMR crisis hotline. It's 800-772-5987. But anyway, I was getting back. It's you can create pretty much a support network with other veterans. Okay, Just all you have to do is actually reach out to these people. Okay? Listen to me, reach out. Americans across the country love veterans. They love them, okay? They honor them. They thank them for their sacrifice. They thank them for their time, including the ones that are gone. Memorial Day and Veterans Day is just a one-day thing, which is BS. I think the government should pass a law from the House and the Senate and executed judicially through the president that a month, doesn't matter what month. I think July is a great month to just make it a military pride month. Complete month. 1 week can be about veterans. 1 week can be about those we've lost. 1 week can be about their families. 1 week can just be an all out, all American pride. Or it could be the other way. From July 1st to July 7th is American pride. July 7th through the 14th is military veterans appreciation. And then military, everything in July is just all pro-American military. Because I feel like we deserve more, because some of the most bravest, courageous, most righteous people I know are veterans. And also, my golly, police officers, firefighters, first responders, people who do jobs that other people will not do, will never even think about doing. Those are the people that deserve a month, not a day. I know a lot of you out there that are listening to me agree with me. It doesn't matter if you're a leftist or a right-wing conspiracy theorist like me. You deserve the world, especially if you're a veteran. Especially if you're a veteran. I'm not shunning you out there, police officers, firefighters, and first responders. I love you guys too. Here are some key facts about veterans drawn from a survey. The experiences of post 9/11 veterans differ from those who served in previous eras. About 1 in 5 veterans today served in active duty after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. These post 9/11 veterans are more likely to have been deployed and to have served in combat, giving them a distinct set of experiences compared to those who served in previous eras. Now, it's not saying that the people who went to Vietnam, Korean War, World War II didn't go through the same thing. Don't forget, we also had conflicts in El Salvador, in Nicaragua. Okay, we had the Cuban Missile Crisis back in the day where the military was on guard, ready for a full-on nuclear. Remember that? All of that stuff is happening. But for some reason, more people joined because of 9/11. Post 9/11 veterans are also more likely than their predecessors to bear some of the most physical and psychologically scarring moments of combat. Roughly half, that's 47% of post 9/11 veterans say they had emotionally traumatic or distressing experiences related to their military service, compared to 1/4 of pre 9/11 veterans, or about 35% of post 9/11 veterans that sought professional help to deal with their experiences. And a similar amount of people say, regardless if they have sought help or not, a lot of them suffer from PTSD. Thank you, James. James Stewart put out there, Panama, Grenada. That's right. Oh, that's a good one. Reach out to your pastors. They are there to listen and to pray with you, including people like James Stewart. Reach out to him, message him. He can help you and guide you the right way. That's probably the most righteous man I know. A majority of veterans say they have felt proud of their service since leaving the military. We'll get back. When we get back to Vet for Vets, we're going to discuss a little bit more on veteran health and things that are affecting veterans today. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about myself. Thank you. Love y'all. And see you in about 2 minutes. Stay tuned.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Welcome back, everyone. Here, listen to this. This is me with my Portuguese accent. Welcome back to my. Oh, that's actually Indian. No. Welcome back to my show, Vet for Vets. No. This is my. If I was my dad, and I learned to speak English very thick, this is what it would sound like if I was a Portuguese man, which I am, but with my dad's accent. Joko Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneInJoko.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store, check out our lineup and more at JokoCommunityRadio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844-TEX-HAIL. That's 844-839-4245. Be sure to dress your arms and more at thetp.com. I can also do that Russian too. Joko Community Radio is proud to be voice of Johnson County, Texas. But we're not going to get into that. I'm actually funnier than I look. Well, I actually look funny too, as you can see right here if you're watching live. Getting back to what I was discussing earlier. A majority of veterans say they have felt proud of their service since leaving the military. Roughly 2/3 of all veterans, 68% roughly, say that in their first few years after leaving the military, they frequently felt proud of their military service. An additional 22% say that sometimes they felt proud, and 9% say they seldom or never felt this way. Pre-9/11 veterans are more likely to say they frequently felt proud of their service more than, post 9/11. Most veterans say they would endorse the military as a career choice. Roughly 8 in 10, that's 79%, say they would advise a young person close to them to join the military. This includes large majorities of post 9/11 veterans, combat veterans, and those who say they had emotional PTSD in the military. They still say, go join the military. And I agree with that statement. The reason I say that is because you think about it. During high school, you're a junior, right? You just graduated junior year, you're going into your senior year, and you still have no idea what the hell you're going to do. zero clue what you're going to be doing with your life. You know you're good at fixing cars. You know you're good at sports and athletics. You might be even a bookworm, okay? But you still have no idea what you're going to do. You're not exactly at the level where you're going to get a college degree. You don't know how to traverse the landscape of college education, right? You don't know where to go to, where to call, who to call. You just don't know what you're going to do. All of a sudden, you get a phone call. You answer the phone call. It's like, yes, hello. How would you like $40,000 for college? Or how would you like to go to college for free? That sounds very intriguing. And all of a sudden, they're like, yes, I'm the Army. I'm the Navy. I'm the Air Force. I'm the Marines. I'm the National Guard, whatever the recruiter is. Eventually, he entices you because he figures out that you really have nothing going on with your life. I'm telling you, from experience, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life, but I knew I wanted to do something for for my family and for my country because they had given my family so much while I was here in America. While technically I'm still am, but they gave my family so much, considering where we came from, where we grew up poor, nearly impoverished. We literally had nothing but probably the clothes on our back when we were little. And somehow my dad and my mom and my family worked hard. They worked so hard to come up and do things the right way, legally, to come to America, the way everybody has the ability to. Everybody, including those south of the border. You can come to America legally. You just have to be patient and you just have to do it the right way, and you will be able to come here. You just don't want to go through the extra steps my family went to and millions of other families like my family. Okay? We come to America, we eventually get the first job we can get, and eventually you work your ass off and people notice you are a hard worker. A lot of people that have worked with me and a lot of people that know me know I'm a hard worker because I want to prove to the people that I'm more than just a physical laborious person. Okay. But anyway, either way, everybody can come to America legally. Okay. Unless you have some kind of criminal history or some kind of gang lord or drug lord that the U.S. government knows about. But anyway, more veterans say the military did a good job preparing them for life in the service than it did readying them for the transition to civilian life. I agree with that. Because you think about it, if you have a job in the military that really doesn't relay to the civilian life, it becomes harder for you to get a job. That's why a lot of people end up with jobs that are typically not many people apply. And what's funny is veterans are okay with that. A lot of veterans end up over time becoming in charge of roofing companies. They become in charge of construction companies. They become in charge of mechanical shops. They become in charge of things that are typically learned through the military. I get that, but then you have people who use their their noggins and they go to college. They use their actual military money. But then there's people who don't use their college money and they save it for their children, which is another great thing you can do if you're a veteran. Save it for your children. Veterans across eras offer similarly positive evaluations of the military or the jobs that they did while in the military and also how it prepared them for life, but less so when it comes to the return to civilian life. Roughly 9 in 10 veterans, yes, 9 in 10 veterans, that's 91%, say the training they received when they first entered the military prepared them very somewhat similar to what they did outside the military, which is a high statistic. But you still have that 9% that they're in a job in the military that doesn't relay to outside civilian jobs. People like submarines. Okay, so you're a nuclear submarine tech. What are you going to do outside? You can you can be a civilian working for the military to do with sub tech, I guess. It's hard. It's hard to transition in some of the jobs that the military's got for you. About half of post 9/11 veterans say readjusting to civilian life was difficult, while about three-quarters of all veterans say readjusting to civilian life was very somewhat easy. Roughly 1 in 4, that's 26%, say it was at least somewhat difficult. There is a significant gap between pre and post 9/11 veterans in this regard. About half of post 9/11 veterans say it was very or somewhat difficult for them to readjust to civilian life after their military service. By comparison, only about 1 in 5 veterans whose service ended before 9/11 say their transition was very, 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 very difficult. A large majority of pre 9/11 veterans say it was somewhat easy to make the transition. But you still have to think about 21%. So pre 9/11, the attacks on 9/11 by Osama bin Laden hadn't happened yet. And it's you're in the military, say before 2000 all the way to the first Iraq war, somewhere in there. 21% of those people say it was very difficult to get out because you do have commanders and you have people in the military right before you get out. They tell you there's nothing out there for you. They tell you, they physically pull you into the office. You sit in there, you salute your captain, your major, and they tell you, sergeant, private, whatever rank you are, there's nothing out there for you. You might as well just reenlist. They're going to try to convince you. If you truly love the military, why not? If you're a good soldier, why not stay in? Stay in your 20 years or plus 20 plus years and get your retirement really early. That's fine. But then there's a lot of people that want to go to college. They want to get a degree in business. They want to get a degree in, whatever, media, film, television. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is you wanted to do after that. If you decide to reenlist, it's on you because you had the opportunity to get out and go to college. Or you can even go to officer academy school where you can become an officer and actually come back to the military. For many veterans, the imprints of war are felt beyond their tour of duty. Let me say that again. For many veterans, the imprints of war are felt beyond their tour of duty. The challenges some veterans face during the transition to civilian life can be very financially and emotionally and professionally hard on them. You understand? About a third of veterans say they had trouble paying their bills in their first few years after leaving the military. And roughly 3 in 10 say they received unemployment compensation. 1 in 5 say they struggle with alcohol and substance abuse. Veterans who say they suffer from PTSD are more likely to report experiencing all those things than those who did not. Roughly 6 in 10, you heard that right, 6 in 10 say they have trouble paying their bills. About 4 in 10 say they have trouble getting medical care for themselves or families. Or similar, in that case, say they have somewhat of an issue with family regarding, you know, uh, custody battles and things like that. 41% say they struggle with alcohol and substance abuse. Think about it. So 20 million, 10 million, 5 million, a million people, veterans, you think about it. 41% of every single one of those statistics, the millions I've just said, 41% struggle with alcohol or substance abuse. That's mind-boggling, isn't it? I wish people would be more understanding, empathetic of veterans of what they go through. You can just say he's a drunk. That's fine. He's a drunk. He's a drunkard. He's always like that. You have to get in their head. You have to know why some of these veterans are doing what they're doing. Some of them just want to forget something they've been through. Some of them just want to put whatever's going on in their head at ease. And sometimes alcohol helps. They shouldn't be your go-to, but that's why they do it. Same with drug addiction. Some veterans have to take drugs in order to live because they're in so much pain. Some of them take pain pills. They're addicted to it. I take ibuprofen almost every day. Not every day, almost every day, because I have to, because my back just is always throbbing either when it gets hot to cold, cold to hot, warm weather, cold weather, cool weather, lukewarm weather. My back is always hurting. It's just something that veterans like myself go through. When it comes to employment, a majority of veterans say their military service was useful in giving them the skills and training they needed for a civilian job. About 1 in 3 veterans say it's very useful to join the military for their job experience. That's only 29%. You think about it. So that means 71% said the job is useless. The job they did in the military is useless. There are significant differences by rank, though. While 78% of veterans who served are 78% of the veterans who served as commissioned officers say their military service was useful for their their civilian job. Only 59% for non-commissioned officers, which is what I was, or enlisted. 54% say they transitioned well to their civilian life. So that means low-ranking individuals say their job in the military was pretty much was helpful. Only 54%. Most post 9/11 veterans say they served in the military. Serving in the military was an advantage when it came to finding their first post military job. It's true. You think about it. Have you ever, if you're a veteran, you know this. There's a lot of jobs they'll always try to hire veterans first, pro veteran people. But for some reason, the last few years, including programs like affirmative action, they decided to put veterans to the side instead. Yet still more focusing more on diversity than the actual people who have experience in that certain job or certain field. That's insane to me. 21% of veterans lose their first job after losing their military. That's an incredible statistic. 21% say they lose their first job after leaving their military. Think about it. You've gone to war. You've probably killed people. You have a drinking disorder. You have a drug disorder. I'm surprised that number is not higher. I'm seriously like wondering why it's not higher than 21%, because there's a lot of veterans that get fired because they get caught, when they get drug tested. A lot of companies don't allow certain drugs that the veteran needs to survive, to function. So they get fired because not every veteran is 100% disabled, or 50% disabled, or 30% disabled, or 10% disabled. A lot of veterans have issues that they know what their body needs. Yes, some of them overdo it, i.e., addiction. But these companies, I don't know, they're going to have to figure something out with the VA to figure out what some of these companies need to do. Bobby Riley says, I heard diversity was an old wooden ship and that San Diego means whale's vagina. It's funny. James Stewart talking about the issue about citizenship. My wife did it legally from Guadalajara. Now we are starting the process of her citizenship. I am so blessed to have her by my side as my wife. Oh, that is awesome. Oh, I can't wait until she's a full blown American like I was. Little known fact, I only became an American in 2005. I was in Iraq. I was in Iraq. Think about this. I was in Iraq, in a foreign country, when the American, I guess you can say, the person that's in charge of the whatever you want to call it, the citizenship, he flew all the way from Italy, went to America to surprise us, all the people that applied for citizenship. President George W. Bush was there. The Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, was there, and a few other people. I didn't even know who they were, but they were all there to congratulate us, and they all shook our hands and talked to us for a few seconds about us being American citizens. Thinking back to 2005, before I realized that George W. Bush was a rhino. Thinking back, I think that was probably one of the greatest moments in my life, actually, because I always wanted to be an American, full blown American. I was dual citizen for years and years and years. And the military is like, hey, if you want to stay in, you have to be full blown American. And I agreed with their comments. I agreed with their statement because I really thought about it. I was like, yeah, you know what? I think it's time I become an American. I've been here for 30 years at the time. I think it's time. And when George W. Bush, who I was proud to have served under at the time, and Donald Rumsfeld, when I got to meet them, and I gave them a little talk about how it was one of the proudest moments of my life. It was really emotional at the time. I remember that. My family couldn't be there because you're in a war zone, really. I mean, you're getting bombed and mortared every day. It's not exactly the right place, but we did it there. And I think it was about 80 of us all together, different ethnicities, different races, different genders, just all of us from different countries from all over the world. We all did it the right way. We all applied for it while we were in the service, and we all got accepted after taking our citizenship test. Here's a statistic that a lot of veterans, especially those listening out there, a majority of veterans say that wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were not worth fighting for. Iraq, I kind of agree, but Afghanistan, I don't know. Afghanistan is an effed up country. It's I really I want to keep my 2 cents out of this one because I have my own take on these things, and it gets a little bit blown out of proportion. So I'm going to keep myself out of this. Additional findings from the same survey that said that most veterans think it's not worth fighting for say about 2/3 of veterans, 64%, say they think the war in Iraq was not worth fighting for, considering the cost versus the benefits to the United States, while only 33% say it was. Similarly, a majority of veterans, 58% of them, say the war in Afghanistan was not worth fighting for. About 4 in 10 say it was worth fighting for. Views difference views differ significantly by party. Republican veterans or Republican leaning veterans are much more likely than veterans who are from the other side that from the Democratic side to say that the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were worth fighting for. While only 15% of Democratic veterans say the war in Iraq was worth fighting for. First of all, veterans in general, if you're a Democrat and you're a veteran, oh my gosh, I mean, seriously, like what? How can you? I don't even want to go there right now. That just makes no sense because I have a few veteran buddies of mine that are Democratic, even though Democrat is really not what they are these days. They're socialists, they're liberals, they're not Democrats anymore because it's two different things. A majority of Americans and veterans associate discipline and patriotism with veterans. Majority among veterans and the general public say most Americans look up to people who have served in the military, and veterans see themselves as more disciplined and patriotic than those who have never served in the military. Most Americans agree with this. 60% of all adults say being disciplined better describes veterans than non veterans. And 59% say about the same thing when it comes to patriotism. About a third or more among veterans and the public say veterans are more hardworking than those who haven't served. Still, when it comes to things like tolerant and open to all groups, the public is less likely to see this as a trait associated with military service than veterans are themselves. That's a lot of information to take in. I know. Yeah, I just blabbed on for a good almost hour talking about things. If you're listening to me live or watching me live, or you're listening or watching me afterwards, post recording, post stream, you're more than welcome to reach out to me for any questions that you may have. A lot of people want to know while I was in the military, some of the things I've gone through, a little bit about myself. This was September 11th, 2001. I was a couple of days before September 11th, 2001. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had ultimately decided that I was going to get out so I can go to do my college because I had started a mechanical engineering degree with OU and I wanted to finish it. I wanted to get my degree. Couldn't do it because I have September 11th, 2001. A couple of days before that, I decided I'm not going to do it. So all of a sudden, I'm in the training where we're in an FTX field training exercise. In case if some of you don't know, FTX is field training exercise. We're out there in the woods in the middle of nowhere in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. We're training. It's not really cold. It's not really hot. It's perfect weather. The sky is blue. All of a sudden, we get a radio call. All the radios, Mayday, Mayday. This is blah blah blah. Was the commander. They need all the soldiers to come to this and this location. So all of us in Humvees, tanks, MLRSs, trucks, M88s, howitzers. All of us just basically all created this massive convoy. We went to this FOB forward operating base. We're there, and all of a sudden, there's like, I would say about 600 of us, 600 soldiers side by side, shoulder to shoulder, while the commander's in front of us. And he whips out this TV. I'm not even joking. The TV is a good 1 foot by 1 foot little black and white television. And all of a sudden he goes, he's like, ladies and gentlemen, look at this. All of a sudden, just it's the one of the tower is it's just it's smoke. He goes, we don't know what's going on, but just want to let you know that if anybody whose family is out there in New York, it's something happened. We don't know what's happening, and all of a sudden we're all watching this, and all of a sudden the second plane, bam! I mean, we're watching it. We saw the plane hit, and all of a sudden everybody's freaking out. As soon as that second plane hit, every single one of us turned to each other and we said it. We're going to war. We definitely now know it's a terrorist attack, and we're going to go after whoever it is, and we're going to go after them tenfold. And boy, did we go after them tenfold. We went after them about 100-fold. For every one soldier that we've lost, or every one American we've lost, we've probably killed 1,000 of them, 2,000, 10,000 of them, all because of one man, Osama bin Laden. So while I was training and while we were going through everything that we were going through, I already knew that 9/11 was it pretty much the trajectory, the trajectory of my life, where it was going to go, where I was going to go to mechanical engineering school or go to film school, wherever I was heading. I mean, it literally just veered off to the right or to the left, wherever it went. And my life changed. While I was deployed overseas to Iraq the first time, I decided to just went ahead and I re-enlisted because I just figured they're not going to let me out anyway. Well, I might as well just make some money out of it. So I re-enlisted, got a bonus, and it was worth it because that second deployment, I'll tell you what, I made an impact. I saved lives. I did things that I do not regret. Yes, it's not right that I did them, but I do not regret them because I knew what I was doing helped us Americans here on the mainland, which is why one of the reasons why I'm a very, very big on American patriotism, and why it's important to appreciate those who fought for us overseas, especially people like myself and others like Bobby Riley, people who fought for us, people who've taken injuries that none of us should ever have to go through. And me, I'm just talking normally now. I didn't know my life was going to be here talking here on this radio show years later. And I thank Tiffany for giving me this opportunity to be on this show, to lead the show, even though I was wanting to help produce it, to help find the people to be on the show and have somebody else be the host. But she said to do it, and I'm glad I did. Because I'm able to bring soldiers who've been through shit, tell their side of the story about where they grew up, what they've done, what they did, and what they're doing now after their military service. This is why I created Vet for Vets years and years ago. But I just this past year, finally had it going here in Texas, good old Johnson County. If you are a veteran and you're watching me right now near the end of the show, or you stayed and actually listened the whole show, or you watched this whole show, or even fast forwarded to the end where you thought I was going to get naked and swing around like a helicopter, reach out to me. Tell me you want to be on the show. I will reach out to you, and hopefully within the next few weeks, you'll be on my show talking to me. Thank you, everybody. I love y'all, and have a good night.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or a loved one suffering with diabetes. If you have lost your provider, or if you need a provider for